after a week off, because James was hosting, we are back to fixing some NFL teams. James really fucked us on this one since free agency has already started and NFL free agency is confusing as shit. But James, take it away, my dog.
All right, man. This week is the AFC North. Let me repeat that one more time. The AFC North, which consists of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, Cleveland Browns, and Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to start this week with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are 12-4, or they finished 12-4. And last season, they had one of the most dominant defenses in the league. They just re-signed Big Ben and Juju, and they currently have about $2.5 million in cap space. Alex, what is their biggest need, and how do they fix it?
Yeah, so that this one's so tough. I think they need to get another cornerback. I think they need to work. That defense is what kept that team going. Need that. So they already it looks like they already re-signed Cameron Sutton. So that's a good pickup. I don't know if I have like an actual name for you because it's really tough. But I think if they want to keep working on that defense, that's what carried this team in 2020. And then my backup pick is, I don't really know exactly how they're going to do this, but get a replacement for Ben Roethlisberger. Groom him. I don't think Mason Rudolph is the answer, even though that was a fun fight he had 2 years ago. And Ben Roethlisberger's old. I mean, we saw him pretty much falter down the stretch there. But I'm going to go a cornerback. I really don't have a specific person to give you, though. This was incredibly tough.
I agree with you that Mason Rudolph is not the answer. The tough part about this is they're number 24 in the draft. So, I mean, they really got to either trade up or hope for a Tom Brady in the 5th round, which is probably never going to happen again. Tyler, what do you got?
I went with center. Their center, I believe, retired. If my sources are correct. So that's good. So that's obviously a really big decision. I think center is one of the most important ones out there. So I think they need to find a new center. I'm looking at the free agent list. Hopefully this guy didn't sign. Austin Reeder looks like a pretty good find there. I think free agency is probably their best bet unless they find a NFL ready center in the draft order, whatever they find. But I feel like free agency getting a center, I think, is really, really important. So I think they need to shore that part up.
I agree with the offensive line portion of that. Okay, what do you got?
I hate to do this. I actually am going to agree with Alex. I want to see this defense continue to dominate, but I do have names. I could see Gary Conley getting signed. He's free agent still. Or Richard Sherman. This is an older team that's looking to go for it, and I can see maybe if they can fit him in under the right dollars. I think that's doable. That's what I got. You need to make sure that defense it stays elite, because that's kind of all you have. Like, your offense is hit or miss. And I mean, I could come on here and say they need a backup to Big Ben. But I think that's a draft issue unless you want to get Nick Mullins, but you don't want to get Nick Mullins. So.
It sucks. So does CJ Beathard. They all suck. All right. The one thing about Richard Sherman and Gary Conley that I don't like is the fact that they're going to cost more than $2.5 million. And you're forgetting that this $2.5 million is also going to have to account for the amount they spent in the draft. So that's the tough part about that. The biggest thing is that they lost Mike Hilton, which is their slot corner. So you want to get a slot corner. For that.
I guess the draft is the way to go there.
Yeah. I do agree with Tyler. I think their biggest hole right now is left tackle, because their longtime left tackle, Andre Villanueva, is expected to move on from the team. That guy's been there forever. He's a damn good left tackle, but for some reason they're moving on from him. So I expect them with the number 24 pick to draft Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State. This guy is a monster. He's really good at run blocking, not so good at pass blocking, but that'll come with time and footwork. So I think that offensive line is where they go. You guys went with defense. It's going to be interesting to see which way they go this offseason. Moving on to the second team in the division, that's the Baltimore Ravens. They're coming in at 11-5. They're just 1 year removed from being like that offensive juggernaut that nobody could figure out because Lamar Jackson was just running all over the place. This last offseason, they've lost 2 key defensive players in Yannick Ngakoue and Matthew Judon, both on the defensive line. But they did shore up their offensive line by signing Kevin Zeitler from the Giants. He's damn good. They currently have $17 million in cap space as of today. Tyler, what is their biggest need and how do they fill it?
I think they need to get a big name wide receiver. I think that the wide receivers they have just aren't quite good enough. I think for Lamar Jackson, I think they need to shore up that passing game more. The running game is very good, but let's get some passing game in there. So for me, the most intriguing name to get would be Sammy Watkins. I think this guy, he's not been as same a production as he has been, but he's 28 years old. So he's still got some prime years left. He's got experience. And look, in Kansas City, he was overshadowed by Travis Kelce and Hill. So I think put him on a team where he's going to be the number one guy, and I think you'll see him succeed once more. So I think that's the most intriguing option. James, you seem to really, really disagree with my pick, but
100%. I agree on the wide receiver aspect, but Sammy Watkins was the number 1 in Buffalo for a long time, and then he was the number 1 in Kansas City for a year before Tyreek Hill got there, and he did not produce. Like, this guy had so much hype coming out of college. Does not translate to the NFL level whatsoever. He's a number 2 and number 3 wide receiver, not a number 1. And you said you're looking for number 1. He does not fit that profile. Alex, what do you got?
Okay, I agree with Tyler. They need, if we fully believe that Lamar Jackson can be a throwing quarterback, they need a number 1 wide receiver. They are late in the draft, I believe 27th or 28th. So they're a little bit further down in the draft. So my pick is Terrace Marshall Jr. out of LSU. It's the same system that Justin Jefferson came out of. He obviously did pretty well.
And Jamar Chase.
And you know who else came out of LSU? OBJ and Jarvis Landry. They've been doing a good job of getting wide receivers in the NFL. And Justin Jefferson did that with Kirk Cousins. So, yeah. Obviously, I think Lamar Jackson's a much better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. And then that extra cap space that we're talking about, that 17 mil or roughly whatever it was, that they can use to shore up that defensive line that you were just talking about, how they were lost some key players. But I'm thinking get a young wide receiver to pair with Lamar Jackson. Obviously, LSU has been doing a great job with wide receivers in the last couple of years. So I'm going with Marshall Jr.
I like it. Jay, what do you got?
Boys are right. Wide receiver. Because here's the thing: like, Lamar Jackson needs something, right? They're such a run-heavy team, and I know I've said it in the past, and I know we've said it on this podcast. The running game really is really what wins football games. That establishing that run game, but this league is turning into a passing league, and you need receivers to do that. That being said, you should have signed Golladay, in my opinion. I would have done that. I don't know why the fuck you didn't, but I guess maybe I should be the GM of the Baltimore Ravens. That's who I would have picked. All that's left, Sammy Watkins, I guess, but here, I guess, okay. Probably the best one available, even though he's old and even though I hate him because fantasy wise, he fucked me. T.Y. Hilton. He's a long, deep guy. He probably can. He probably has something in him. He's the best option right now because you fucked up and didn't sign Golladay.
I agree with the fact that they should have signed Golladay. They need somebody else who is more possession receiver, a route runner, not a deep threat. The problem with T.Y. Hilton is that he is the same build and the same style as Hollywood Brown. So you can't really have two of the same guy on the same team running the same routes. And as you can see right now, it's like Lamar Jackson has trouble hitting those deep routes. He can run, but he's not all that accurate when he throws more than 20 yards. My proposal, and I'm surprised nobody's mentioned this yet, but sign Antonio Brown. Like, he's a free agent right now, and he's only worth $3 million. He had flashes of greatness in the Tom Brady system with the Buccaneers. If he stays on the right path, he can produce at a good level. He can still break people's ankles. He can get open at will. And you saw that all of last year. Now, the fun fact about him is that he's actually Hollywood Brown's cousin. So there's some cool family ties there, some good chemistry that could happen there. And John Harbaugh isn't a pushover. He's a damn good coach that'll lay down the law and make sure you're in the right space at the right time. He's more like Bill Belichick than somebody who's just like a pushover.
Yeah. I thought about, I admittedly, I did think about him, but I really look at, who his quarterback was. It's one of the most accurate passers in the league. And I just don't know if that has a factor. I mean, we sit here and question Lamar Jackson's, like, I know he can throw, but he's not a Tom Brady. He doesn't have that type of IQ. So I just don't know if it's tough for me, because Antonio Brown looked amazing, but he was also his quarterback was amazing. So I think I agree with you that he's probably the best option in terms of what you're looking for, but I just don't know how he would fit under a Lamar Jackson quarterback team.
I agree with you there that he's not the best quarterback for that. But what I look at isn't the amount of catches and the amount of yards he gets. I look at the yards of separation he has from the defender. And Antonio Brown is in the elite, like 5 percentile of that. Like, he was getting separation at ease when he was wide open, or when he was running a route. And it's like, if you can get open, if you can get some space, most quarterbacks in the NFL at that level will get you the ball more often than not, if you can get space. The biggest problem nowadays in the wide receiver world is they can't get space. Defenders are too good.
Yeah,
that's what's happening. So that's what I think Antonio Brown. But I like how we all said about receiver, like we're on the same page. Whether it be through the draft, definitely not Sammy Watkins, or it could be T.Y. Hilton or Antonio Brown. Sorry, Ty.
It'll be Sammy Watkins.
If it is, man, I'll take a shot. I don't know.
All right, cool.
I really seriously doubt it, though. Moving on to team number 3, Traden's favorite team, Traden's Cinderella story, the Cleveland Browns, coming in at 11-5. They were ranked as the number 4 overall offense last year. That's crazy. Like, who would have thought that? Their run offense was ridiculous. They did lose like a ton of key pieces on the defensive line, and Olivier Vernon and Larry Ogunjobi. But on the flip side of that, they added some really great defensive pieces from the Rams, taking away from that really great Rams defense. So they signed the safety John Johnson III, who Eric loved apparently, and cornerback Troy Hill. They also added Ty McKinley from the Falcons. He's at 25 years old. He's a damn good edge rusher and can get sacks. As of today, they have about 14 million cap space. Tyler, what do they need and how do they fill it?
Keep adding to the defense. I mean, I think that's really, what's going to take them to the next level. Get another linebacker edge rusher. How about Jadeveon Clowney? He's still up there. Can you imagine that guy along with all the other good defensive pieces they have? Scary.
I did not think about that, but I like that a lot. That's a great pick. Good job, Ty.
Thanks.
Alex, what do you got?
Yeah, it's really fucking annoying. So I agree. They ranked about middle of the pack in sacks. Obviously, we love Nick Chubb on this podcast, and their wide receiver duo is still great. Baker Mayfield, top 5 quarterback in the league, right, Traden? Okay, I'm kidding about that part. But, you see, we come back to this all the time, but you see how great one defensive lineman can make the rest of that team. I mean, look at what Leonard Floyd did after being paired with Aaron Donald. So I also thought about Jadeveon Clowney, but I don't want to pick the same player because that's annoying. So I'm going to go Melvin Ingram instead. Give it another, veteran guy to pair with Myles Garrett, who is, a defensive player of the year candidate every single year. That dude is an absolute monster. Get more pressure on the quarterback. You see what an elite defense can do. And obviously that somehow the Browns are in a really good position this year. So, players want to go there.
That's so crazy to say that
it's
players
so
want
weird.
to go play for the Browns. It's like saying the Knicks are in a playoff spot. Really weird. Trade, what you got?
I don't have anything to add. I mean, look, the offense, don't touch it. Everyone's back. Don't touch it. It's fine. There's nothing to do there, honestly. Defensively, I guess that's what you just focus on. I like their picks. I'm not trying to be lazy. I just don't have anything to add. They took all my picks. I mean, I guess you can make sure that you're setting up your defense also for the future. So maybe you could look at your drafting choices. You have a lot of money to spend too. So, I would just make sure that you continue to pad your defense. As for the draft pick, I'll just say that JC Horn of South Carolina, that's a good option that you could pick up in the draft, just to kind of set your foundation for your defense going forward. I think that football especially the NFL, you build from the back, from defense out, because we've seen that. We've seen the defenses. That's what an elite defense can do. I think that the Browns would have been way further along if their defense was, imagine the Washington football team's defense paired with the offense of the Browns. I mean, that's a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I agree with you guys. I went with defense, but not defensive line. I went with linebacker. If you look at their entire lineup as a whole, the linebacker is kind of the only weak spot on there. After they traded away Joe Thomas, that's not the right name. Joe something. They traded him away. He went to play for the Giants for a while. Joe, yeah. I think they should sign KJ Wright from the Seahawks. Tyler, is KJ Wright a linebacker or a lineman?
Linebacker.
Good job. Yes, he is. He's definitely a linebacker. He graded out as a 6th best linebacker in the league last year. And the Seahawks drafted a linebacker in the first round last year that they're bringing along. I think his name is Jordan Adams. At 31 years old, they're not looking to resign him. The Seahawks are kind of going the wrong direction, especially with Russ trying to leave. It's not looking like they're as contentious as they were before. The cool thing about KJ Wright being at 31 years of age as an elite defender, he's only going to be asking for about $7 million per year. So that's plenty of space for the Cleveland Browns to sign him. I can't imagine KJ Wright playing elsewhere, but if he plays with the Cleveland Browns, that defense will immediately get better, 100%. Last but not least, we're moving on to Cincinnati. The Cincinnati Bengals were 4-11-1. Joe Burrow had a pretty good year. Like, he was coming along, getting better and better each and every year until he tore his ACL. So that's not good. Oh, and Joe Mixon, huge disappointment. That guy, I drafted him. Fucked my season up big time. Never drafted Joe Mixon, everybody. Overall, though, very bad season for them. They were 23rd in defense, 27th in offense. They lost long-time wide receiver A.J. Green and also their best cornerback in William Jackson. But they did add Mike Hilton from the Steelers, which we talked about earlier. Riley Reif from the Vikings, he's the tackle, adding onto that offensive line that is terrible. And edge defender Trey Hendrickson from the Saints, who led the Saints in sacks last season. They currently have the 9th highest amount of cap space available with $25 million. Alex, what do they need and how do they fix it?
Yeah, so the Bengals are a little bit like the Chargers that we talked about a couple weeks ago. They finally found their franchise quarterback. Joe Burrow was playing, just like you said, was playing great until he tore his ACL. He needs protection. And so I think they do that in the draft. Like, they need to protect him or he's going to get destroyed. So I think they do that in the draft. And I apologize if this is not how you pronounce his name. But I'm going to say that out there straight up. Penei Sewell comes out of Oregon. I think he is, he can help shore up that offensive line. The Bengals obviously had a pretty rough year, so they've got a high pick. I think he can fall into that spot for them. And that's one more guy to kind of start rebuilding this Bengals offense after some brutal years in Cincinnati.
I agree with 110%. Fun fact about that, before tearing his ACL, Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback, and the running backs for Cincinnati had the most negative yards before getting tackled at the line of scrimmage. So the offensive line was just bad. Swiss cheese bad. Carey Price last month bad. Yeah, it was not good. Tyler, what do you got?
So I kind of was doing research, and I definitely do agree with the offensive lineman. And your pick, Alex, it was probably the pick that I was going to go with. The Riley Reif signing, I think, is really big for them, but I do still think they need more on the offensive line. However, I also think that a wide receiver, a guy that's going to pair with the quarterback, is going to be really, really important. So how about Jalen Waddle from Alabama? Because they have the 5th overall pick. You can pick that's a pretty good spot in the draft.
You're not picking a wide receiver 5, man. Come on, bro.
But what if they do?
Not when you have T. Higgins. Why
and
would
Tyler
you do
Boyd.
that? T. Higgins in his second year.
They're kind of set, yeah.
Why would you do that? Why would you waste the 5th overall pick on a wide receiver when you have 2 up-and-coming wide receivers who have paired well and meshed with Joe Burrow?
Because you always need wide receivers. It's like pitching. It's like pitching with baseball. You never have enough wide receivers. You never have enough.
Go pick up T.Y. Hilton. You got 25 million cap space.
T.Y. Hilton sucks though, like as Trayden said.
He doesn't. Okay, you're right. He does. We'll get to that.
Good try, Tyler. I disagree 150 million%.
That's fine.
But again, if they draft Jalen Waddle, then I'll eat my words. I'll take another shot. I'll buy you a beer next time.
Woo!
Last but not least, Trayden, what you got?
Gotta show up the offensive line. I think we're getting smarter. Like I think we all like know our football clearly. I like the T.Y. Hilton though pick. I do like that because I just think it adds some dynamicness, if that's a word, to
Just made it word.
To the wide receiver core. But for my offensive line pick, I actually like Alejandro Villanueva, and here's the reason why. He's very good. And I think that he brings a veteran presence that Joe Burrow can kind of latch onto. I know that they're not. I know that he doesn't play the same position, but having that veteran presence is a big deal. And no one signed Villanueva yet, and I think he's a very, very solid offensive tackle. So I think that's who you pick.
I just want to speak to a little bit more. Andre Villanueva, very respectable human being.
Love that guy.
He served in the armed forces. He served our country. So he's mature way beyond being just a football player and having a veteran presence. That being said, I think you go cheaper, and I agree with what Alex picked. Like, they're going to go to the draft, number 5 overall. He's the best offensive lineman available. He has a lot of potential. He's only really played like D1 football for 2 years, and that's typically what people see as a concern. But a lot of experts are saying it's like he's that raw and he's that good. Just imagine how good it'll be after like good coaching and a couple of years in the NFL. I think he might end up being a cornerstone for years and years and years to come. So with the 5 overall pick, you get a cornerstone guy.
Or you can get a wide receiver.
Or you can get a wide receiver.
Waddle or Waddle.
I say that ironically. I don't actually mean that.
I mean it.
All right, guys. That's my segment. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy this stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, James, good job as always. I feel like it went less off the rails this time than I thought it was going to. So I'm proud of us as a collective group for that.